Imagine standing at the heart of Jerusalem, where the stones themselves seem to whisper. Beneath your feet lies a vault no one is allowed to touch. A vault that 9 mysterious knights entered more than 900 years ago and never spoke of again. They went down as poor soldiers. They came back as the most powerful order in Christendom. What did they find beneath Solomon's temple? Gold? The Ark of the Covenant? Or something far more terrifying, something that should never be disturbed? Tonight, I'm taking you deep into the shadows of history, where fact and myth blur, where sealed doors hide more than treasure, and where silence itself feels alive. But I warn you, once you start this descent, you might never think of the Templars the same way again. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is only the first step into a labyrinth of secrets history tried to erase. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. So hold your breath, keep your torch steady, and follow me down. Because in the next hour, we'll uncover the forbidden vault beneath Solomon's temple, and you'll see why some believe it was never meant to be opened again. They were 9 men. No army, no banners, no gold. Just 9 knights who rode into Jerusalem in the year 1119, with a request so strange that even today, historians whisper about it. They didn't ask for land. They didn't ask for power. They didn't even ask for treasure. They asked for permission to live beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple. Not beside it, not near it, under it. For nearly a decade, these knights disappeared into the stone belly of Jerusalem. They did not fight. They did not recruit. They barely even spoke. All they did was dig. And when they emerged, they were no longer just knights. They were the Templars, warriors of Christ, bankers of Europe, confidants of the Pope. They had risen from the earth, not just alive, but powerful, untouchable. So what did they find down there? A treasure that could shake kingdoms? A relic capable of breaking the world? Or something so unspeakable it had to be buried again? Tonight I want you to come with me, not through blood-soaked battlefields, but into silent stone tunnels. Not through triumphs of glory, but into whispered corridors where history itself is afraid to look. Because what lies beneath Solomon's temple may not just be treasure. It may be a vault that was never meant to be opened. A vault sealed with silence, with fear, and with warning. Stay close. Because the deeper we go, the darker it gets. And the question we must face is not only what they found, but why they sealed it back in. Fade into sound of stone grinding, a slow heartbeat in the background. Picture Jerusalem in 1119. The First Crusade has ended in brutal triumph. The holy city is soaked with blood. Thousands lie in the dust, and for a brief, fragile moment, Christian rule has been re-established amidst the ruins and rebuilding. While lords argue and feudal politics fracture the land, 9 men quietly form a new order. They call themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ, but history will never know them by that humble name. We remember them as the Knights Templar. Now imagine this. You are King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. A city still unstable, enemies pressing at the gates, your throne precarious. And 9 obscure knights approach you, not with demands for armies or castles, but with a single request. Grant us residence beneath the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount, one of the most sacred, most politically volatile sites in the world. Once home to Solomon's temple, later crowned with the Al-Aqsa Mosque. A site holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. And yet, Baldwin agrees. He gives them free rein to vanish beneath it, to dig, to explore, to live in chambers long sealed. Why? Why would a king so desperate for allies, so pressed for resources, indulge 9 men in such a bizarre request? Did he know something? Did he want something hidden? Or did he fear that refusing them would bring consequences darker than war? For 9 long years, the Templars dug. They weren't training armies. They weren't spreading faith. They weren't building fortresses. They were simply digging into the belly of sacred stone. And here's the detail that chills me most. Not a single military campaign is recorded for them during this time. No expansion, no battles, just silence, and the scrape of iron against rock. Now, pause and feel that silence. Imagine walking by the Temple Mount at night. You hear faint echoes beneath the earth, shovels striking stone, whispers muffled by dust. What were they uncovering in that darkness? What was buried so deep that they labored in secrecy for almost a decade? And when they finally returned to the surface, they were no longer poor knights. They were suddenly rich beyond measure, granted powers and privileges no other order had ever known. They became bankers, diplomats, papal confidants. So ask yourself, did 9 men truly gain the world for nothing? Or did they bring something back up from the dark? Let's focus on the king himself. Baldwin II. He was not a man of reckless generosity. He ruled a fragile kingdom, held together by fragile alliances. And yet he granted these 9 obscure knights unrestricted access to the Temple Mount, the most sacred ground in his city. Why? Some say Baldwin simply wanted to curry favor with holy men. Others suggest something darker. A private deal. A bargain struck beneath torchlight. Perhaps Baldwin already knew. There was something buried beneath the mount, something he wanted hidden again. Consider this. Centuries later. In the 19th century, British explorer Charles Warren crawled through tunnels under the Temple Mount. What he found was not ordinary. There were passageways collapsing into darkness. Chambers sealed so perfectly with stone, they might never have existed. He described one shaft that descended into nothingness until it was blocked by a massive slab that didn't match the architecture around it. A foreign stone, as if someone had deliberately sealed a door. Warren stopped digging there. He wrote that to continue would be to die for the answer. But the Templars did not stop. So again we ask, what gave 9 knights in 1119 the confidence or the desperation to dig into forbidden earth? Perhaps Baldwin knew. Perhaps he was complicit. Perhaps he feared something buried there, and in giving them access, he rid himself of the burden. But what if he underestimated what they would find? Because when they emerged, the Templars were not just wealthy. They were untouchable. In less than a generation, they were given privileges no other knights enjoyed. No taxes, no feudal service. Permission to build chapels free from any bishop's control. For 9 obscure men who had done nothing publicly remarkable, this was unprecedented. The Vatican itself moved to protect them, and so a chilling possibility rises, like a shadow at the back of your neck. Either they found nothing and were rewarded beyond reason, or they found everything. And if they did, then Baldwin's bargain with those 9 knights may have unleashed a legacy so dangerous, it still echoes in silence today. Because beneath the Temple Mount lies not just stone, but stories. Whispers of vaults that appear in no blueprint. Scrolls no one dares translate. Maps that seem to lead only downward. In silence. Always silence. Pause, long hollow echo. Torch flickers. Stay with me. Because next, we descend into the whispers themselves, into what the Templars might have unearthed. And trust me, this is where the story begins to twist from history into horror. Fade to black. Ominous rumble. For 9 years. Nothing. No wars. No victories. No crusades sung in song. Just silence. And the faint, muffled scrape of shovels beneath Jerusalem. Think about that. An order of knights sworn to protect pilgrims completely disappears underground. Their mission, at least on paper, was to guard the roads. But how do you guard travelers if you vanish into the earth for nearly a decade? Something doesn't add up. Even seasoned historians shake their heads at this anomaly. The Templars did not expand their order. They did not recruit. They did not evangelize. They simply dug, and in that silence, rumors began to grow. Whispers spread through the city that Earth was being moved at night. That strange lights flickered beneath the Temple Mount. That chants, not prayers, but something lower, deeper. Like stone itself groaning, could sometimes be heard in the darkness. And here's the part that chills me most. When records from this period are examined, there are gaps, not minor omissions. Whole years missing from Templar chronicles. Entire sections where ink simply does not exist. It's as if history itself recoils from this period. As if the record has been scrubbed clean, leaving only the scrape of metal on stone and the heavy silence of buried secrets. Now, imagine you are a pilgrim in Jerusalem at the time. You walk past the Temple Mount. At night, you hear faint sounds beneath your feet, not the song of monks, but the grinding of stone, the echo of picks, and occasionally, something else. A soundless vibration. A thunder without voice. The kind of hum that makes your teeth ache and your heart beat faster. What would you think? That angels were protecting you? Or that demons were being unearthed beneath your holy city? Distant rumble. Torchlight flickers. Centuries later. In the 19th century, Charles Warren, a British explorer, ventured beneath the Temple Mount. He discovered collapsed tunnels. Chambers sealed so precisely with stone, they may never have existed. One shaft descended into nothingness, until it met a smooth slab, different from the architecture around it. He turned back. He wrote in his notes that to continue would be to die for the answer. But the Templars didn't turn back. This is where whispers grow dark. Some say the Knights were searching for Solomon's treasure, hidden and guarded by angels. Others believe they sought sacred knowledge, scrolls written in flame, never meant for mortal hands. And then there's the most haunting theory of all, that they searched for the Ark of the Covenant itself. The Ark, the chest said to contain the stone, tablets of the 10 Commandments. A relic so holy, so dangerous, that it struck men dead for touching it. A relic whose power was said to level walls, part seas, and burn armies to ash. But if the Ark was hidden beneath Solomon's temple, why would anyone let 9 obscure knights get so close? Unless that was the point. Unless Baldwin and the church wanted it hidden again. Or perhaps they wanted it controlled. And here's a strange echo. In Templar-era carvings found in France, there are depictions of a domed chamber, flanked by 7 pillars, with a stairway descending beneath a triangular arch. The dimensions, measured in cubits, align disturbingly well with unexplained voids beneath the Temple Mount. Coincidence? Maybe, but what if these carvings weren't decoration, but memory? What if the Templars encoded in stone the chamber they had entered? What if that chamber, Vault C, as it's sometimes called, wasn't just an empty room, but a container? A container for something never meant to be seen again. And if that's true, the real question is not what they found. The real question is, what did they seal back inside? There is a pattern here. Every time explorers get too close, silence follows. Charles Warren's notes end abruptly, his diagrams vague. Modern ground-penetrating radar scans have revealed anomalies beneath the mount, voids that don't match known tunnels, but those findings have been locked away, sealed by political and religious authorities. Why? Because if there truly is a chamber beneath the Temple Mount, then its very existence would shake 3 religions to their core. Jewish tradition speaks of substructures beneath the temple, places known only to priests. Rabbinic texts mention doorways that open downward into darkness. Some accounts even describe priests who entered and returned blind. Their hair turned white overnight. Islamic tradition adds its own layer of mystery. Medieval historians wrote of the Temple Mount as a site of subterranean secrets, where prophets stored relics in chambers no one dared disturb. And then there are the Christian whispers that the Templars not only found relics, but knowledge. Dangerous knowledge. Knowledge they encoded into architecture, carried across Europe, hidden in chapels and cathedrals. Perhaps that's why the Templars rose so quickly. Not just because they found treasure, but because they found something more volatile: instructions. A blueprint of power. Imagine a scroll not of gold, but of algorithms for wealth. Instructions for hiding, moving, and multiplying value. Not coin, but the very idea of finance. If such knowledge existed, it would explain everything. How 9 knights became the richest, most powerful order in Europe in less than a generation. How they built Gothic cathedrals with uncanny geometry. How they terrified kings and whispered to popes. And yet, amidst all of this, silence. The Vatican says nothing. Records vanish. The Order's own chronicles skip over the years beneath the mount, as though they never happened. And in that silence, I hear something else. A warning. A held breath in the dark, because silence can mean safety. But it can also mean fear. So we are left with a chilling question. If the Templars sealed a vault beneath Solomon's temple, was it to protect us from what was inside? Or to protect what was inside from us? Pause. Echo of stone door slamming shut. Darkness. What was it? What could possibly transform 9 knights into the most powerful order in Europe? Historians have offered theories, some bold, some insane, some whispered only in secret. The first theory: treasure. That beneath Solomon's temple lay gold, silver, jewels, the wealth of kings. Perhaps even the fabled treasure of Solomon himself, guarded for centuries by priests and sealed away after the Babylonians destroyed the temple. But this theory has a fatal flaw. Gold, no matter how much, runs out. Treasure can be taxed, stolen, spent. And yet the Templars grew richer, stronger, more influential every single year. Their wealth wasn't diminishing. It was multiplying. Which brings us to the second theory: knowledge. Scrolls, perhaps, instructions, forbidden writings. A kind of ancient algorithm, not for war, but for wealth. Imagine documents that explain how to move treasure unseen, how to protect it with traps, how to grow it using principles of finance that the medieval world had never conceived. Not piles of gold, but the invention of banking itself. And then, there's the third most terrifying theory: that the Templars found a relic, the Ark of the Covenant. A gilded chest that carried the presence of God, or something darker disguised as holiness. The Ark, if it ever existed, was said to emit power. To level walls, to kill with a touch, to shake the earth with the sound of silence. The infamous soundless thunder. Now imagine those 9 knights descending into the dark. They pry open a sealed chamber. Their torches flicker. The air hums. And in front of them, shrouded in dust and time, lies something that begins to vibrate, not loudly, but with a silent force that rattles their bones. What would you do? Would you reach out? Would you run? Or would you seal it back in, praying never to see it again? Pause. Low, unsettling rumble. Whatever they found beneath the Temple Mount, the Templars didn't keep it in Jerusalem. Their power spread across Europe like wildfire. They built fortresses, cathedrals, entire financial networks. They became untouchable. But here's the strangest part. Echoes of their discovery appear in places far from Jerusalem. In Portugal, in Tomar, there's a Templar site with a sealed lower chamber. Locals call it the Mirror Vault. It is said to reflect in stone whatever once existed beneath the temple. In Scotland, the Rosslyn Chapel is filled with cryptic carvings. Beneath its floor lie asymmetrical cavities, not graves, but voids. Some researchers describe them as stone blueprints, a map of another structure, transposed to safety far from the Holy Land. And in rural France, a carving was discovered hidden behind plaster. It depicts a domed chamber, flanked by 7 pillars, with strange glyphs carved into stone. Glyphs that do not match Christian motifs, but instead resemble ancient Hebrew signs for protection. And for silence, coincidence? Or encoded memory? This is where the Templar story begins to blur with another. The Freemasons' Masonic rituals are obsessed with the Temple of Solomon. Their most sacred reenactment is of the death of Hiram Abifa, the legendary architect of that temple. Some lodges even contain chambers sealed off from the sanctuary, echoing the Templar sites. So ask yourself, was Freemasonry born as a cover, a disguise, a way to preserve what the Templars had found? If so, then every initiation, every ritual, every secret handshake may be nothing less than an echo of a vault that should never have been opened, a vault that still whispers in silence. Among the most unsettling details in all of this is a phrase that recurs again and again. The soundless thunder. In Masonic catechisms, it appears above sealed doors. In Templar carvings, it is hinted in cryptic codes. In whispered legends, it describes a noise that is not a noise, a vibration felt in bone rather than heard in ear. What could it be? Some scholars argue it was metaphor, a way to describe awe, the overwhelming silence of encountering the divine. But others whisper something darker. That the vault beneath the temple was not just a chamber, but a device, an acoustic trap. A resonant chamber built with sacred geometry to amplify frequencies, to shake intruders into madness. Imagine stepping into such a space. The air begins to vibrate. Your vision blurs. You feel sick, nauseated. Your torch flickers though no wind blows. You try to cover your ears, but there is nothing to block, because the thunder is silent. It is inside your skull, and this is not myth. Certain sealed vaults in ancient architecture have been shown to create standing waves of sound, low frequencies that unsettle the human body. Cause hallucinations, even terror. So perhaps the Templars did not merely find a relic. Perhaps they found a chamber built to resonate with something else. A presence, an artifact, or even an idea, a vault that breathes. A vault that hums. And if that soundless thunder was real, then the Templars may have been the first in centuries to hear it, to feel it, to fear it. Which begs the question, did they seal the vault because they were protecting the world from what was inside? Or because they knew that once the soundless thunder is awakened, it can never be silenced again? Long pause, darkness, a deep faint vibration begins, rattling softly like a heartbeat from underground. Some accounts are too terrifying to dismiss, and too strange to fully believe. One rabbinic tale speaks of a priest who dared descend beneath the sanctuary. He returned not triumphant, but broken. His hair had turned white. His eyes were blind. His tongue could no longer form words. What did he see down there? The story calls it a warning, a metaphor perhaps. But why include such horror in a sacred text unless it reflected a memory, something witnessed, something too dreadful to record plainly? The Midrash Tanshuma speaks of chambers beneath the temple, places sealed where no light may enter. Places forbidden. Imagine being that priest. You descend step by step into silence. The air grows heavy. Your torch flickers. And then, the silence isn't silent anymore. It vibrates, pressing against your skull, filling your mind with echoes of something not human. When you stumble back into the light, your world has changed forever. Not because of what you took with you, but because of what followed you out. Now, imagine 9 knights facing the same descent. Did they hear the same whispering thunder? Did they see something that turned their blood to ice? And if so, how did they emerge not broken, but empowered? Fast forward centuries. The vault's shadow lingers not only in scripture and legend, but in the obsessions of tyrants. In the 1940s, Heinrich Himmler and his NNRB, the Nazi Ancestral Heritage Office, searched the world for relics of power. Their obsession was not merely myth, but weaponization. They sought ancient technologies, resonant structures, proof of a master past. And among the places they looked? Jerusalem. More specifically, the Temple Mount. Himmler reportedly believed that sacred architecture wasn't just symbolic. He thought structures like the temple were built to channel energy. Vaults were not crypts but devices, and beneath the Temple Mount, he believed, lay one of the oldest. Did his teams find anything? We don't know. Records from the Ananerb's investigations in Jerusalem were abruptly classified, then buried. In 1942, Himmler ordered the immediate suppression of all material related to the Temple Mount. Why? What did they see? Some suggest the Nazis failed. Others whisper they succeeded in ways they never understood. And here is the most terrifying thought of all, that the Nazis did not try to seal the vault. They tried to wake it. What if the soundless thunder was not myth? What if it was resonance, frequency, energy? The kind of thing a war machine would kill to control. If so, then perhaps the vault beneath Solomon's temple is not merely a tomb of knowledge, but a weapon, and the silence around it, from kings, popes, and dictators alike, is not ignorance. It's fear. But this isn't just ancient history or wartime obsession. The vault's shadow stretches into modern times. In 1981, Rabbi Yehuda Getz claimed to have found a tunnel leading to a chamber beneath the Temple Mount. His team began digging. And then, something happened. According to later accounts, Palestinian guards stormed the site. A confrontation broke out. The tunnel was resealed. The dig was abandoned. The project vanished from record. But years later, when pressed in an interview, Rabbi Getz said only this: "We got close. We heard the hollowness." He refused to elaborate, and he wasn't alone. Modern satellite scans, conducted quietly by foreign universities, revealed anomalies beneath the Temple Mount, cavities, tunnels, shafts, but the data was locked away, sealed under pressure from governments and religious authorities. Why does silence descend every time the vault is approached? Perhaps because those who guard the Temple Mount, Muslim, Christian, Jew alike, are united in one thing: fear. They may disagree on faith, on history, on politics. But when it comes to digging beneath the mount, the answer is the same. No doubt. Think about that. Rivals who have warred for centuries are in rare agreement on one point: that what lies beneath the mount must never be touched. And maybe they're right. Because silence can be protection, but silence can also be a warning. And if the vault was never meant to be opened, then the question becomes, why did 9 knights in 1119 have the courage or the madness to break that rule? Whenever the trail of the vault grows hot, a shadow falls across it. The shadow of Rome, the Vatican, the oldest archive in the world. Miles of corridors filled with manuscripts, scrolls, maps. Yet when it comes to the Templars' years beneath the Temple Mount, there is almost nothing. Records vanish. Letters disappear. Whole years erased. But sometimes fragments slip through. One Vatican parchment, discovered in 2001 and quickly locked away again, spoke of foundations recovered beneath the mount, not built. Not imagined, recovered. The phrasing is chilling. If true, it means the Templars didn't dig blindly. They rediscovered something that had already been there. Something old. Something buried deliberately, and the Church knew. They knew, and they chose silence. Why? To preserve faith? To avoid panic? Or because they too feared what might have been uncovered? Consider this. If the vault contained documents, scrolls that challenged the very foundations of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the Vatican would have every reason to lock them away. Imagine alternative versions of creation, forbidden gospels, prophecies that undermine the authority of every pope, every priest, every king. Such knowledge wouldn't just shake religion. It would collapse kingdoms. And maybe that's why the Vatican's silence isn't just absence. It's control. A silence enforced, century after century, as if keeping the vault buried beneath walls of bureaucracy and ink. But the story didn't die. Secrets have a way of surviving, like embers glowing under ash. In Europe, Long after the Templars were destroyed, a new order began to rise, the Freemasons. Their rituals are obsessed with the Temple of Solomon. Their sacred reenactment is the death of Hiram Abiff, the builder of the temple. He is slain not for gold, but for protecting a word, a secret, a name never to be spoken aloud. Sound familiar? Some lodges contain sealed chambers, rooms off axis from the main sanctuary, with no windows. In one degree, initiates are blindfolded, led into a chamber of reflection, and confronted with symbols, skulls, sand, mysterious glyphs. What if these rituals are not allegory? What if they are memory? Echoes of what the Templars saw beneath the Temple Mount, the resonance, the silence, the warning. Even their symbols hint at it. Geometric diagrams that mirror known voids beneath Jerusalem. Glyphs that flicker between Hebrew, Greek, and something older. A cipher that no one fully understands, the so-called Solomonic script. Perhaps Freemasonry isn't just a fraternity. Perhaps it is a disguise. A mask worn by the Templars' secret. A way to keep the vault alive without ever opening it. And the rituals aren't celebrations. They're instructions, warnings, lessons disguised as theater. Because maybe the vault is not a place. Maybe it's an idea. A container for knowledge too dangerous to speak plainly. An idea passed from knight to mason to initiate. And if that's true, then every time a Freemason lodge gathers in secret, they are not reenacting a myth. They are whispering a memory. A memory of a vault that breathes. And so we come to the end of our descent. The Templars entered the earth as 9 poor knights. They emerged as masters of Europe. Somewhere in between, they found something beneath Solomon's temple. Was it gold? Was it scrolls? Was it the Ark? Or was it something else? Something not of this world? The truth may never be known. Every attempt to uncover has ended in silence. Priests struck blind. Explorers turning back. Nazis burying their own records. Modern excavation stopped at the last moment. And across it all, one pattern. Silence. Not peaceful silence. Heavy silence. Pressing silence. The kind that feels alive. Maybe that is the vault's true secret. Not what lies inside, but what happens when you open it. Because if the soundless thunder is real, then the vault itself is not treasure. It is a threshold, a test, a trap, and the Templars, for all their digging, may have realized the final truth, that some doors must remain sealed, that some silence must never be broken. Which brings us to you. You've walked with me down the tunnels. You've felt the torchlight flicker, heard the echoes of shovels on stone. You've stood at the edge of the vault. Now ask yourself, if you held the key, would you open it? Would you risk the silence breaking? Or would you let it sleep? Forever, fade to black. A low hum lingers, then stops suddenly. Remember this, sometimes the most terrifying sound in history is silence.